Hey, tburrier here, and want to talk a little bit today about how to manage work-life balance. I know that that's a big issue for lots of people, and it certainly was for me many, many years ago, almost to the point where it cost me practically everything that mattered. But I developed a system a long time ago, and it wasn't without input. I studied Stephen Covey, I studied Hiram Smith, I studied a number of people, and then came up with something that worked really well for me. And I'm going to share 3 tips for you here that will help you start to get a handle on this. I actually wrote my first book on this, many, many years ago. But first, you have to look at it in a bigger picture, right? It's common to talk about work-life balance, but that's really a misnomer. It's really not about work-life balance. It's about life balance. You only spend 20 to 25% of your life working. And if you get a bigger picture of understanding it's about balancing your whole life, then work is a component of that. And if you get clarity on that, things can get a whole lot easier, because the reality is your life outside of work has a significant impact on your work and vice versa. And lots of people are given some skills in work for how to be productive and how to plan and how to do those kinds of things, but they don't have them necessarily outside of work. And so there are a couple of things that you can do relatively simple that can help you get a handle on this, okay? So the first thing, tip number 1, is to identify your roles. And so again, this is a whole broad thing, right? So it's not just your work roles, it's all your roles. All the roles that you play in every corner of your life. And what is a role? So a role is anywhere where you have a responsibility and then there is a corresponding expectation. Now, it may be of yourself, right? Like self-care is my own responsibility and it's my own expectation. So no one else places that on me, and no one places that on you. That's your own thing. But it's still a role because it really matters. And so if you think about it in that light, there are many, many things that you are responsible for, right? Just in your household, what are the things that you are responsible for, that you have to do, that you're the one, right? It's your role to make that happen, because each one of these things takes up your time. And so you have to get a handle on what all those things are before you can even begin to consider balancing them. And more importantly, there's probably some things you shouldn't be doing, right? And this can be on a broader scale, right? So if you think about your personal self, how many roles do you play as a human being, right? You may be a father or a mother, right? You may be a sister or a brother. You might be a parent. You might be a child still, right? You may have parents that you are still involved with, or maybe even have to take care of. And then you may be an uncle, or whatever that is. Those roles have some impact on you, right? They represent some need to show up in some way. And then in your house, are you the one that cuts the lawn, takes care of the yard, or takes care of the kitchen, or takes care of the dishes, or takes care of the shopping? Or those are roles that you play. And then obviously in work, you have an enormous amount of them, right? You don't just have a job. That job is carved up into many different roles, all of which have something to do with your productivity. And if you're not clear on what they are, then it's easy to end up doing the loud thing, right? Doing the thing that's right in front of you instead of actually doing the right thing. And that's a whole different concept. So the first step is to identify your roles. And I've worked with people in coaching who, when they identified their roles, I worked with one CEO who had 32 roles in their job. And they couldn't understand prior to us working together why in 60 hours a week they couldn't get it all done. Ultimately, they got to a place where they could get it all done inside of 40. But first they had to identify what those were. Now imagine that. Imagine the difference between being able to accomplish everything you needed to do in 40 as opposed to 60 when you're normally doing 60. That's 20 hours you now have to apply elsewhere in your life. That's what getting balanced is all about. And you don't have to be out of balance to succeed in life. That is not true. You can do it all, but it doesn't happen by, chance. It just doesn't happen by chance. You have to be purposeful. So first, identify all your roles. Then go back and look at those roles and think about those roles. Are they really important? Like the last time I did this was quite a while ago, but there were multiple things that I was involved in or I had committed to that I was doing that really weren't serving the more important things in my life, right? They weren't serving the goals. They weren't serving my true priorities. And so that helped me go, okay, so this needs to be gone. This thing needs to be removed, right? Sometimes you have to pour something out in order to put more in, right? And so first, identify your roles. Second is get clarity on your priorities. And this is going to be an outcropping of your roles, right? Because every one of your roles is inside of your priorities, right? So you think about, I mentioned self-care, right? That if that's not a priority, at some point it will be. So it should be now, right? Because when it becomes a priority and it's not on purpose, that usually means something not good happened. The time you spend in your relationship, what your responsibilities are in your household, right? Those things are part of your priorities as well as your work life. So you identify the areas that are important to you. And that's really how you can figure out what a priority is simply go, if I neglect this, will it matter? Because if you neglect something and it doesn't matter, it's not really a priority. It's inconsequential. It's actually not important. It doesn't have much meaning. And so you think about it in that light. What is so important it can't be neglected? And those are how you can get a handle on what your true priorities are. Then you take those priorities and you break down what the roles are that are inside of those priorities. And so that's the second step. And then the third step is very simple. Plan each day. Plan each day the key roles inside of each priority. If you do that, right, you'll be able to take advantage of all kinds of natural productivity boosters inside of it. You'll see places where you can consolidate things. You'll see areas where you can delegate things. You'll see where you can collaborate with someone else. You'll see places you can multitask. You'll see all these little pockets of chances to increase productivity. And increasing productivity among all of your roles brings more time into how you feel. It doesn't give you more time. There's no such thing as more time. You have all the time there is, but it will feel like you have more time. So number one, identify all your roles. Number two, identify your priorities and then look at the roles inside of those priorities and then just take a minute on the side and consider the roles that you don't need to have at all and the ones that you could potentially have someone else do. And then the third thing is plan each day completely inside of all of your priorities. And when you do that, things will change, not overnight. It won't change overnight. They will start to feel better relatively fast. But over time, you will notice a lot more peace in the way you operate. At the same time, you're getting a lot more of the things that matter to you done. So I hope that was helpful for you. I have a link below to my book, Live Full, Live Well, which I wrote first in 2004, published in 2006. And I went back and revised it about a year ago, but I did not change much because those same principles are the principles I've used for over 25 years. That are incredibly effective at living a balanced life and being able to do all the things that matter most to you, which is really, really cool. And if you need to send me a question, my email is below. Love to hear from you. All right. Hope this is helpful. Take care.